Skritam naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasatim vyasam tato jayodhira nishtapriyashu bhadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatiyatam arshoki bhaktir bhavati naistiki nigama kaparurgaritam param shukamakara ravi samhitam hivata bhagavatam rashamariyam mahorahorashikubhuvivakaham Krishna swadam vagade dharmikani karo nashtadri samasha parana kodunarditam Kamapiadavishuddha Vishatam Vivu Samyapyadana Vidamvidiksaram Pragyahidu Harmaharanam Samklesha Nirvanam Usandi Nanyatam Om Aganati Mananda Syanganagana Sadakya Chaksurun Miditam Yanatashmai Suyadvedamam Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yana Bhutare Sayam Rupa Karamayam Tarati Swaparantikam Vandeham Siguru Siyata Parakamaram Shigurun Vaishnavam Sta Sirupam Sagadatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sadevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Siddhanta Krishna Paran Sahagana Ladita Shibhishakan Vitam Stam Namaom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutare Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tanamane Namaste Sarasati Devi Guruvani Pacharine Nirvishesa Sanyuadi Praskita De Satarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavrindam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Good morning, Jane. Good morning, Rakesh. Welcome to Transcendental Tuesday. I have to apologize for not getting back to you on the comments that you made yesterday, Motivational Monday. I spent the day in Salt Lake, doing a third day of traveling to the coffee shops, the bagelries, in order to put up posters for the upcoming Festival of Colors in September. I went to one Indian store and he looked at the date and he said, September? That's not when Festival of Colors is. I said, well, we didn't get permission to have it in March. So we're going to have it in September, and then we're going to have another one the following March. The people that bought tickets in 2019 are holding on to those tickets. We had very, very few refunds. So it'll be 2 years now that people have been patiently holding on their tickets, waiting to come to the festival. And I have to say also, I looked at the results. I went around throughout the entire Salt Lake City area, all the Starbucks, all the Beans and Brews, the Einstein's Bagels, and the Jimmy John's sandwich shops, starting Friday, Saturday up until we had the Sunday feast at 7 o'clock, and then up until the Rath Yatra that we had Sunday night at 6 o'clock also. And I went back to our ticketing agency, and 400 tickets were sold during those 3 days. I've done postering for many, many years, probably more than 50 years. The old-fashioned way of advertising an event through putting up posters. Rarely have I had that much real-time response. Usually there's a lag between the time you put up the posters and people notice them and start buying tickets. But it was extremely gratifying that even though it was hard driving all over Salt Lake City, getting in and out of your car in 100-degree heat, it was gratifying to see between 400 and 500 tickets being sold during that 3-day period. So we're excited about the festival now, which is coming up within about 70 days, just a little bit more than 2 months now. The first Festival of Colors in Spanish Fork that we had in over 2 years. Give me your feedback. I'm hoping that the sound is adequate. For some reason, our professional microphone hasn't been working lately, and so I've been using the computer sound. But I'm a little bit more distant from the computer than I have been to the microphone. So let me know if you can hear okay. Don't give me a hard time. I mean, if it's okay, then don't say anything. Only if you're really having a hard time hearing, then mention something in the comments section there. Sound is good. Okay, thank you, Rakesh. We did get our feet wet for this season on June the 12th. We had a color festival in Salt Lake in the big soccer field behind the temple there. And we got all the kinks out. We got all of our rustiness taken care of. It was a very well organized, very well managed event. And we have many people comment on Facebook and through other channels that they had such a good time at the Salt Lake event that they're going to come again to the Spanish Fork event. They can't get enough of the nectar, of the honey from the lotus feet of the Lord, which coincidentally brings us to today's topic. We've progressed to the 19th verse in the 5th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Navai Janu Jatu Kanchana Vrajam Mukunda Sevyanyavad Anga Samsritim Shmaran Mukundangri Upaganam Purna Vihatami Chena Rasha Graho Janaha. Rasha Graho means once you've been bitten by the taste of the honey of the lotus feet of the Lord, you're never the same again. Someone said it's like being struck by lightning. Your life is never the same again. Even if you intersect Krishna consciousness, you go to a festival, you chant, you attend a Sunday feast program, you do it maybe because your teacher told you for no better reason than your teacher told you. You had no sincerity. You might have had no inquisitiveness whatsoever, but your teacher said, go visit some other religious service this Sunday and write a report upon it. You checked out all the Presbyterians, the Methodists, the Catholics, and you chose the Christians because you found out they get a free feast and you're a student on a budget. So you might have gone to the Sunday feast for no better reason than number one, your teacher told you, and number two, you got a vegetarian feast. That doesn't matter. Once you've tasted the nectar of the honey of the lotus feet of the Lord, whether you realize it or not, your life is never the same again. Now, it's not like being struck by lightning. Obviously, that's a very dramatic, electrocuting event. But it is life-changing in the sense that you are introduced to the higher taste. Sadaram yadav apnoti akshame vihit vaitani vairagananiva. That's not it. Dishaya minimarjate narahashaja rajamapisha param drishna navardate. Now, in all of our many incarnations, some of them is subhuman, some of them is superhuman, some of them is human, on all the various planets, we've basically pursued the stimulation of the senses in a gross way, just like the cats and dogs. Nayam bhajaniloke. The pleasures that we've pursued through these material bodies have been gross material pleasures. That's why you got this body in the first place. You wanted to pursue the pleasures which are freely available to the dogs and the hogs, and you needed an instrument in order to do that, and so you got awarded by the laws of material nature, you got awarded a gross body with gross senses in order to pursue gross desires. It says, Navita Tarshera Bhagiyamana Bhavoshodoko Ya Uttama Shoka Ganarama Pamam Barajita Vina Vashunun. Who will neglect the glories? Who will neglect singing, dancing, chanting the glories of the Lord in wonderful saintly association, after which one has sumptuous vegetarian foodstuffs to replenish one's energy levels, philosophical discussions, natural work like growing food, sewing flower garlands, learning the arts of dancing, singing, and perform kirtan, cooking, drama. Every item of devotional service is eminently pleasing. And so the question is posed in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Nibrita Tarshayar Upagiyam Bhavoshodo Chota Ya Uttama Shoka Gananavara. Who would pass? Who would give a miss on participating in the glorious God-centered activities of chanting, dancing, singing, feasting, and philosophizing? Only those who are killers of the soul. Only those Puman Barajita Bina Pashugnat. Only those animalistic, low-class persons who are pursuing the same gross pleasures of the cats and dogs. Now, if you ask a cat and dog, who are you? They can't answer any better than, I'm this furry thing with a tail. I'm a cat, I'm a dog. But the human being, and the human being exclusively, is capable of figuring out that apart from this material body, there's a living entity. And that living entity springs not from matter, but springs from an eternal, spiritual, vibrant world. We've been pursuing the gross sense pleasures. We've been awarded, so to speak, this material body in order to taste those pleasures. So when someone comes to a Krishna temple, or comes to a festival in which chanting is prominent, they get a higher taste. But because it's not on the same gross level as what they've been used to, they may not immediately recognize it as such. The perception comes on a subconscious level in most cases. Every once in a while, it's true to say, you get someone who walks in off the street, he chants, and he knows from his previous lives, Prapya Punya Kritam Ushitva Srimatam Yoga. Some are those who have performed devotional service in their past life. They've made a mistake or they've had a relapse. They were close, but they retreated from the path in their past life. But when they hear the chanting, Ado Shvado Tado Sadasang, their faith is rekindled from the previous life, and they just dive right in. We get devotees like that, who right from the very get-go. I remember in Australia, we had this Italian fellow, I forget what his name was before he was initiated, dark-skinned, swarthy, Italian-looking fellow. He came to the Sunday feast a couple of times. We had it downtown Melbourne in a storefront on Little Lonsdale Street. We had the feast upstairs. It was a big, long hallway there. We had good kirtan, wonderful prasadam, puppet shows. So after having come just a couple of times, this fellow comes and sits down in front of me, and he says, "I think I'll join." And I thought, yeah, right. Okay, you think you'll join. Okay. So we made arrangements for him to show up, finish it, quit his job, wind things up, and come with his stuff later on that Thursday. And I'm thinking, I wouldn't bet on that. I wouldn't give even odds on that. Sure enough, he showed up Thursday. He moved in, and he became one of the best devotees that we ever had. And right now, his name is Ramai Swami. He's initiating guru. He's GBC for all of Australia. Manusyanam Sahasrashu Kashtin. They do exist out there, due to having advanced significantly in their previous life, and yet due to bad association, unfortunate circumstances, they had to cease and desist, but now they're picking it back up with a gusto. They're resuming their devotional path with an intuitive sense that they're not going to make the mistakes that they made in the last lifetime. I remember that verse of Bharat Maharaj. He said, Samam Shmitir Mrigate hi pivera Krishnarchanam Prabhavati no Jahati Yatadata Janashana Shang Vishankam Ambaritishtarami. He said that, because I had a lapse in my Krishna consciousness, I became attached to a deer, Samam Shmitir, and I was remembering a deer at the last moment of my life, Samam Shmitir Mrigate Krishnarchanam Prabhavanti no Jahati. My devotional service got put on hold, so to speak, because I had the body of a deer. I could no longer do service. But I still, by Krishna's grace, retained the memory of my past life as a devotee, even while in the body of a deer. And therefore, I frequented the ashrams of the sages, I listened as best I could with my dear ears and my dear intellect to the pastimes of the Lord as described by those sages. I took the remnants of Prasadam, and then in his next birth, he took birth as Jad Bharat, and not only avoided the same kinds of unfortunate situations which had caused his fall down in a previous life, but he also met the great king. Rahugana made him his disciple, and through Rahugana, many, many thousands of people were purified. So it often happens that when that one rare soul comes and takes to Krishna consciousness as naturally as a fish takes to water, one of the reasons is because on some level he realizes his mistake from a previous life, and he's determined not to commit that mistake again. People ask us all the time, does it bother you that 25,000 people come to the Festival of Colors? And most of them come out of a sense of frivolity, just to have a good time. They're not in any way serious about chanting Hare Krishna. And we say, well, it doesn't bother us. It's to be expected that people have lower tastes. They have grosser tastes. However, after 6 or 8 hours of hearing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And channeling all that youthful energy into chanting and dancing, taking cruelty-free food, hearing nice messages from that great, good-looking MC on stage. In fact, they're never going to be the same. They don't realize it on any sort of a conscious level, but they've been infected. And just like an infection, the seed of an infection or bacteria, it doesn't germinate. It has a period of incubation, and then it manifests itself more fully later on. So people had a taste by attending a Sunday feast at a Krishna temple, or hearing the Sankirtan party, or especially going to a festival where the chanting and dancing goes on for hours and hours. But the taste is unlike anything they've experienced in their past. It's subtle, it's pure, it's sublime. And so therefore for them, it's unrecognizable on a conscious level. But, and they go back to their old lives. Monday morning, they'll go back to the old routine, the commute, the job, the girlfriend, the children, the family, and so on and so forth. But now there's something for which they're hankering. They're not sure what it is. There's something that they need to do. There's some taste they need to have. They're not quite sure what it is. They haven't specified it. They haven't identified it. But on a subconscious level, they've been bitten by the Krishna bug. And they'll never be happy again until they reconnect. Maybe it won't be for another 12 months until another Festival of Colors. We have some people that have said, I've been to the last 6 years. I've been to the last 8 years. I've been to the last 10 years. One boy on Facebook, the day after the Festival of Colors, he said, I got enough potency, I got enough inspiration to last me for another 6 months. So they have to have it again, like a drunkard has to have another shot. They have to have it again. And their steps, their subconscious thoughts, their life choices will lead them back to within earshot of the chanting of the holy names and into such a place that they can take once again prasad. So their lives are never the same again, although that change doesn't come about as dramatically as having been hit by lightning, but it's just as irrevocable. Echoing those sentiments, in the 16th chapter, the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th verse, Narada Muni tells Arjuna, I believe it is, Attavasya Padamboja Makalanda Lihamsadam Kimanyura Sarapir Ayusho Yad Asad Vayaha. The devotees of the Lord, Attavasya Padamboja, means that the lotus feet of the Lord, they are lotus feet, they are so-called lotus feet because they have nothing to do with this material world. The lotus grows within water, and yet it never gets wet. Brahmanyata kamane sangam tyaka karoti lipyatena savadiri padvam patum ivamba shaha. It is said that just like the lotus flower grows within water but never gets wet, similarly he who is a devotee may be engaged in all kinds of activities, but they never have anything to do with this material world. And when the Lord descends, he descends in his self-same spiritual body. Every aspect of that body, lotus eyes, lotus mouth, lotus hands, lotus feet, lotus-like lips, Arjam Maranam Maranam Karanam Nayanam Maranam Asaram Maranam Ridiam Maranam 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 Karam Maranam Bacharam Maranam Charitam Maranam Basaram Maranam Bhavita Maranam Charitam Maranam Brahmatam Maranam Maranam Patara Karam Maranam. Nothing about the Lord gets affected by the material atmosphere. Rather, the Lord himself inspires his devotees who have lapsed to revive their God consciousness and to resume the practice of bhakti yoga in such a way as they return back home, back to the spiritual world. So the difference between devotees and non-devotees is that the devotees have been bitten by the taste of the honey from the lotus feet of the Lord, which is a honey unlike any pleasure. It is a taste unlike any other taste that one can get by transmigrating through millions and millions of bodies to the suprahuman, to the subhuman, throughout the human, to a higher planet, Swarbhava, lower planets, middle. It is a taste unlike any taste which is available anywhere within the created energies of the Lord. And so, having tasted that nectar of the honey from the Lord's lotus feet, one comes more and more to feel that any other activity or endeavor is a waste of time. Now, normally, in material life, of course, we would make a distinction between that which is spiritual and that which is otherworldly, that which is apart and distinct from matter, and the mundane affairs of this material world. Devotees have no attraction for the politics and the diplomacy and the economics of this material world. It has no place in terms of assisting or promoting spiritual advancement back to home, back to Godhead. And yet, it may seem strange that in the Mahabharata and in the Srimad Bhagavatam is described as the spotless Purana. It's entirely spiritual. It's permeated through and through with bhakti. Dharma prodito kaitavo. In fact, it condemns thoroughly from the very second verse any motivations such as economic development, sense gratification, piety, or even liberation. Condemns all of these motivations. It says from the pages, from the second verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, you're going to be submerged in an ocean of bhakti. And yet, some people may wonder, there's politics, there's betrayals, there's conspiracies, there's economics, there's warfare, there's envy. It seems like all the emotions that we see in the mundane world, which we try to distance ourselves from because they are contaminating. They taint our spiritual life. Why have I left all that in order to re-encounter these topics in the so-called pure version of the Srimad Bhagavatam? And the answer is, it is the presence of the Lord that surcharges things which are normally and apparently mundane. It is the presence of the Lord. It's the introduction of the Lord into these affairs which surcharges them, which spiritualizes them. That's the difference. Bring in Krishna, and nothing in that context is ever spiritual again. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, earth, air, fire, water, mind, intelligence, false ego, these are my separated material energies. And he says, Mina Prakritim Ashadam. They're separated. Earth, air, fire, and water. In other words, these bodies, both the gross physical bodies and the subtle bodies of the mind, they are the separated energies of the Lord. That means these energies do not exist in the spiritual world. They exist in the material world, which is the separated, external, temporary energy of the Lord. But they do not exist, this body and this mind. You cannot take them with you to the spiritual world. They simply do not exist in the spiritual world. They're separated. However, Anashatasha Visham Yataramut Nirbandha Krishna Sam Yukta Vayagadiga Ujate. When you dovetail Karmani Varakari Maparishma Karma Mate Sangoshtu Karmani. Sangoshtu. When you take the combinations and permutations of this material world, you take this body and this mind, and you dovetail it in the service of the Lord, then it is connected. It is no longer separated energy, but it becomes, by virtue of its connection with Krishna and the devotional service of Krishna, it's still matter, it's still temporary, but don't forget, it has its common origin in the person of the Supreme Personality. So therefore, anything connected with Krishna becomes Krishna's. What would otherwise be mundane, what would otherwise be useless, what would otherwise be a waste of time, what would otherwise be material, by virtue of its connection with Krishna, it now becomes Krishna's. or spiritualized. Prabhupada uses a famous example. An iron rod is the furthest thing from fire. It's cool. It has no powers of combustion or ignition. You take fire, you take an iron rod, and all the qualities are the exact opposite. But if you take the iron rod and put it into the fire, and you leave it sitting in the fire for a sufficient period of time, you will notice certain transformations taking place. From cool, it'll become warm, and it'll go to hot, and then it'll go to very, very hot. From gray, from a sort of neutral gray color, you'll start to see it get a little reddish tinge. You'll start to see it glow, and eventually it'll be red hot. And when that happens, you can take that iron rod out of the fire and then touch it to wood, touch it to paper, and it will act just like fire itself. It will act just like an igniting agent. Where Krishna is so powerful. He's all powerful. He can transform matter into spirit and spirit into matter. Our job is bring Krishna into the occasion. Don't just keep him boxed up in church for 1 hour a week. There's Krishna politics. There's Krishna marriage. There's a Krishna career. There's Krishna recreation. There's Krishna music. There's Krishna dance. There's Krishna food. There's Krishna performing arts. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Anything that you can do separate from Krishna, you can do as a way of honoring Krishna. The Pandavas are the protagonists in both the Mahabharata and the Srimad Bhagavatam. And we follow the Pandavas in exile. We follow them while they're living in the forest. We follow them while they're contending with attacks from Rakshasas and demons and cannibals. We follow them while their wife is kidnapped. We follow them while they're poisoned. We follow them while their house is set on fire. And someone might ask, how is this spiritual? How is this going to take us from the world of birth, death, disease, and old age, the world of sense gratification, to this sublime spiritual world? And the answer is that wherever the Pandavas were, there was Krishna. Krishna is inseparable from his devotees. Just like you have a gold mine and you have gold particles. So the gold particles are just as good as the gold mine. They may not be quantitatively as valuable, but qualitative, they're the same value. Devotees are not God. The first truth that any pure devotee will always get clear. Take care of this first. Get this off the table. A devotee, a genuine pure devotee, will never claim to be God. Prabhupada used to say, if any so-called guru claims to be God, he's actually DOG. Pure devotees are uncompromising, unequivocal, unmoving on this point. God is God. We are man. A pure devotee will never, ever, ever claim to be God. But a pure devotee is as good as God, because God never leaves the hearts and minds of such pure devotees. Listen to this verse. 16th verse, 16th chapter, 1st canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. This is a stunning verse, again by our great teacher, Narada Muni. Saratya Parashada Sevana Sokyadotya. Sevana. What made the Pandavas so attractive to Krishna? Just like a hook, fisherman puts a certain lure on the hook. And the fish, they know that this is not part of their natural environment. They know this is not their daily food. But there's something about the lure which is so attractive that they can't resist taking the bait, even though on some level they know that this is not a normal part of their routine day's nourishment. But they cannot resist going above and beyond themselves to take this lure. So what is it about Pandavas? What is it about devotees that makes them irresistible to Krishna? Krishna is the all attractive, all of creation, directly or indirectly, consciously or unconsciously, celebrates Krishna. You look at the nature channel, and the the deer and the elk and the caribou are running and bouncing, and the birds are singing, and the fish are leaping. And what are they all doing? In their own way, they're orbiting around God, the Supreme Father, the Supreme Creator. All of creation celebrates God. But God celebrates his devotees. Why? Saracha Parashara Sevana Sokya Docha. Because of the attitude of service on the part of the devotee. The devotee wants nothing else. He has no tinge of any other desire. A pure devotee is by definition anya vilasita sunyam. Other desires have become null and void. They've eliminated themselves. They've shrunk and disappeared. They become null and void in the shadow of the overwhelming desire to render service to Krishna. And when a devotee has that overwhelming, all-consuming desire not to accept service from Krishna, not to ask Krishna for stuff, but to give of himself, heart, mind, and soul to Krishna, then Krishna wants to serve that devotee. And this is how it played out in the case of the Pandavas. Pranamam. Pranamam is evidence. Narada Muni is presenting these facts as evidence as to the omnipotence of devotional service. The Lord is omnipotent. He is indefeatable. He is unconquerable. He is insurmountable. Think of all the powerful demons that Krishna put down, like rabid dogs. Kamsa, Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, Aghasura, Putana, the list goes on and on and on. And yet that insurmountable, all-powerful Lord is himself subdued by an even greater power, and that is the power of bhakti. And Narada Muni puts this forth as evidence that even more powerful than the all-powerful Lord is the power of undivided, pure devotional service. Snignishu pandashu jagat pranatim cha Vishnu bhaktim karoti nit patischaranada vinde. Lord Krishna, Narada Muni says, who is universally obeyed. There are all kinds of servants running here and there to fulfill the orders of the Lord. He himself, who is obeyed by everyone, who pushes down everyone else by his unrivaled, super excellent qualities, he renders all kinds of service to the sons of Pandu. The Lord accepts various posts in the service of his devotees, the Pandavas, ranging from, look at all the various posts, services that the Lord rendered to the Pandavas. Chariot driver, Parthasarati. President, he presided at the Pandavas' wish as the number one person at the Rajasuya sacrificer. So at one time, chariot driver for the Pandavas. At one time, the president, one who presides over the Rajasuya sacrifice for the Pandavas, to give pleasure to the Pandavas. As a messenger, Krishna personally went as a delegate to Duryodhana and pleaded peace. He was attacked. Duryodhana attempted to tie him up. He did and underwent all these insults and betrayal for the pleasure of his devotees, the Pandavas. Friend, he and Arjuna used to sit on the same bed talking about their exploits from time to time. Night watchman, he would guard, he would arrive where the Pandavas were at the nick of time in order to save them from disasters such as the curses of Durvasa Muni. Whatever it was that the Pandavas needed or wanted, whatever the will of the Pandavas was, Krishna submitted himself to the will of the Pandavas and served them in all kinds of ways, exactly like a younger one would serve superiors. Krishna is Advaitam Achyutam Anadam Anantam Adyam Parana Para Purusha Yovanam Cha. Krishna is the oldest person. He's the most celebrated. He's the most revered. He's worshipped in imperial circumstances with great pomp, awe, and reverence. And yet that oldest, most revered, awe-inspiring person served the Pandavas as one younger in years. Therefore, is it any wonder that throughout the ages, those who have spiritual aspirations, those who want to cauterize and purify their very existence, have always looked to Krishna and looked to the devotees of Krishna as good as Krishna, because wherever there are the devotees, there is Krishna rendering whatever services that Krishna can to the devotees. When Sutta Goswami arrived in the presence of the sages of Naimisharanya, Sutta Goswami was a very respected personality, learned, self-controlled, peaceful, austere. But the question that the sages of Naimisharanya asked him, first question right out of their mouth, was not about his austerities, was not about how much he learned, it was not about what yoga postures he got, not about his parentage. The first question that they ask is, Munya Sajo Prishtaham Bhavadbhir Loka Yat Krita Krishna Sampashno Yayat Mashuprashidhi. Are you bringing Krishna? Are you one of those people who carry Krishna with you in your heart? Those who carry Krishna in their hearts, Krishna says, I carry them in my heart. That's what they wanted to know. Are you bringing Krishna? Is your presence and the words flowing from your mouth going to surcharge us like the iron rod becomes red hot and acts like fire itself? Do you bring Krishna? Are you going to talk about Krishna? If so, this will not only benefit you from speaking, repeating what you've heard from Sukadeva Goswami, it will benefit us, the eager recipients who are all ears. Srinvatam Swakata Krishnam Punya Sravanik Ridantoshtu Abadani Vibhudoti Saritsadam. It says the katha, the topics about Krishna, when they're taken in through the ears, they purify one's very existence. Punanti tebishana Vedanti chaks charanor sorora titikam. It's like pouring honey through the ears, after which no one is ever the same again. This is the great crying need in the world today. People need to hear the nectar of the topics of Krishna. They need to hear katha from learned, realized sages. They need to hear kirtan from expert, devoted kirtan singers. They need to take prasadam from devoted cooks who have grown and raised and prepared and cooked the food and offer that to Krishna. These things and these things only will do good to the whole population. Why? Because it is only by connecting ourselves to our source that we feel the deep satisfaction for which we've been hankering lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. We are at present separated. We are at present missing the strength, the empowerment, the fulfillment, the joy, the peace, and the purposefulness that comes from being connected with Krishna in loving devotional service. We're like leaves that have been detached from the tree. We're getting all crinkly, we're getting all yellow, we're getting weak, and worst of all, we're getting irrelevant. We're going off on crazy tangents, espousing speculative causes, running willy-nilly here and there, wasting our time, confusing the issue, muddying the waters. We simply need to reconnect to Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. When the material energy is engaged in the service of the Supreme Spirit, then that so-called material energy becomes transformed into material energy, just as an iron rod becomes fire when it's placed into contact with fire. Tomorrow we're going to discuss the fact that knowing Krishna, you know everything. He is Sarva Kal Vidam Brahma. He is the root cause. He is the source. He is the substance from which everything comes. Fire is one, but fire appears in so many different ways and shapes and forms. I'm sure you've all sat on a winter's night just looking into the fire, being fascinated and absorbed by all the different shapes and forms and colors and hues of the fire. And yet fire is one. Fire can come from a match, a little tiny match, or fire can consume an entire forest. It can be small, it can be big. There are so many different features, there's so many different faces of fire, and yet fire itself is one. So when you know fire, then you know fire in all of its permutations and combinations. Earth is the basis of fragrance, for instance. The rose, the magnolia, the gardenia, the jasmine, all these intoxicating fragrances have their source in the earth. Fragrance comes from the earth. So when you know the earth in truth, then you're going to know all the different byproducts of the earth. These are some of the examples that we're going to show tomorrow to illustrate the point that you need only concentrate on knowing Krishna. Krishna is the source, the origin, the cause of all causes. Sarva Kal Vidam Brahma says that when you know the cause of all causes, everything becomes known and nothing becomes unknown. And those who are conversant with and who have a relationship through service with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are representatives of God. They travel the length and breadth of the earth only in order to give the charity of their association, to afford the opportunity for the conditioned living souls to hear the honey-like nectar coming from the lips of the pure devotees, to get that taste, to get that infection of Krishna consciousness, and thereafter never again to be the same, but to be headed, have turned things around, so to speak, made a U-turn, and now they're going back to home, back to God. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Branga, all glories to the disciplic succession, all glories to the devotees of the Lord who are as good as God. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Sri Radhe, Hare Krishna, Vaibhavi, Pranams, Subhada, Hare Krishna. I see a veritable fireworks going on here from the little hearts and the likes and the thumbs up. That's my reward. I hope that something stuck, that something was of value that we shared with you. And when you hit those little emojis, that is very eminently, deeply gratified to me. Thank you. Here's another round of them as well. All right, Divya, Bhakti Gary, hands together. Anjali Mudra, pranams. Govinda Dev, yes, reminds me that Ramai Swami is the current chairman of the GBC, along with all of his other accomplishments. He is the chairman of the GBC right now. Gene, sounds great. Shout out to Los Angeles. William Griffith, Rakesh, so nice to have been with Rakesh and family, both on Saturday night when his daughter Subi led a wonderful arti in the temple room, and on Sunday when with so much devotion Rakesh was a big part in organizing the Rath Yatra celebrations there in Salt Lake City. Wonderful family. Rakesh and his daughter also taking the Bhakti Shastra course as well. Govinda Dev, Hare Krishna, Hare 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 Haribo. Raleigh, Haribo Raleigh, thank you for checking in. Brent, good morning, Brent. Sorry I wasn't with you all last Sunday, but I heard Jai Krishna led a wonderful kirtan, and also Advaita gave a nice talk. So thank you. Once again, this has been Transcendental Tuesday. It was a delight to have been with you. We will pursue some of these topics ecstatically and blissfully tomorrow and together. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.